What's going on YouTube? It is Texans Tech over here, back with another video. And as I record this, training camp is right around the corner and the 2026 season is rapidly approaching. Last year, the Houston Texans had the best defense in the entire NFL. They ranked at near or top in EPA allowed, points allowed, and yards allowed. The offense scored the second most points in franchise history, but still ranked in the bottom third in efficiency and averaged just 3.8 yards per carry. Today, we're going significantly deeper than before. I'll break down the exact defensive alignments and personnel usage, a full projected starting lineup on both sides of the ball, the detailed offense scheme under Nick Caley, the complete schedule context and strength of schedule, key statistical trends, strengths and weaknesses, and a realistic season outlook. This is a full preview designed for people who want the real details, so let's just jump straight into it. To begin, I kind of just want to give you an overlook on the coaching staff heading into next season, the key personnel of this team. DeMeco Ryans is headed into his fourth year as the head coach of the Houston Texans and head coach in the NFL. Matt Burke returns as defensive coordinator, running the same system that DeMeco Ryans runs, as DeMeco Ryans gave him the reins so DeMeco could overlook the entire team. Nick Caley is headed into year two as the offensive coordinator after a first season that showed both progress and clear limitations as an offensive coordinator. The identity remains the defense for the Houston Texans. In 2025, they're elite on early downs and finished with one of the lowest points allowed averages in the league. The offense set some franchise highs in points and turnover margin, but struggled with consistency, especially in the run game and along the offensive line. The entire 2026 season hinges on whether the offense can become average to good while the defense stays elite. But let's start with the defense, because this is still the heartbeat of the team. I'm going to break down exactly how the Texans defense lines up, starting with the different personnel packages that they use. So, in the NFL, defenses change the number of defensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive backs, depending on the situation. So here I am to define what each package means and how Houston specifically uses them. So base 4-3 is the most traditional package in the NFL. This is 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and 4 defensive backs. The 4-3 comes from the defensive linemen and linebackers on the field. Teams typically use it against heavier offensive personnel, 2 tight ends, or fullback sets when they expect a strong run game. The Texans use base only on about 24% of snaps, one of the lowest rates in the league. Even against bigger offensive looks, the Texans do prefer to stay lighter and faster, which is what the nickel defense is. It's a 4-2-5, and this is the modern standard. The defense takes out 1 linebacker and brings in a 5th defensive back, so the numbers are 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. It's designed to match 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers on the offensive side of the ball, which is what most offenses uses on the majority of plays. This is the Texans' primary package by a huge margin. They play nickel on roughly 80% or more of their snaps. In their version, the 5th defensive back is almost always Jalen Petrie, who plays a hybrid star role, which is the strong side of the field. He can cover the slot, play in the box like a linebacker, or match tight ends. The front is frequently aligned in a wide-9, which is where the defensive ends line up very wide outside of the tackles. The third alignment is the dime defense, and the Texans almost never use this, but the defense brings on a 6th defensive back and replaces another linebacker. So the common look is 4 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, and 6 defensive backs. Teams use this on obvious passing downs, 3rd and long, or during 2-minute drills. Texans almost never use dime, as I just said. Their nickel package is already so versatile and athletic that they feel like they don't need to go to 6 defensive backs. Other packages are where there's 7 or more defensive backs, which are just extremely rare and basically only used in prevent or Hail Mary situations at the end of games, and Texans and all other teams essentially never use these under circumstances. So how the scheme fits together is because we live in nickel. The entire roster and coaching philosophy is built around the 4-2-5. The front is a wide-9, becoming the signature look. Will Anderson and Neil Hunter align extremely wide, creating long edges and opening interior gaps. The coverage is heavy zone, especially cover 3, mixed in with cover 1 and quarters. Cover 3 is 2 corners protecting the deep part of the field and a safety in the middle part of the field protecting that deep half of the field. Cover 1 is man with a single safety, predominantly Caley Bullock, surveying the rest of the field in a deep zone. And then quarter is 4 defensive backs back, 2 corners, 2 safeties, making sure everything kind of stays in front of them. The pressure philosophy, the Texans rank 32nd in blitz rate. They almost never blitz on 1st or 2nd down. The blitz rate only rises on 3rd and 7 or longer. They want to win with the 4-man rush and have tight coverage behind it. So the key individual roles in the nickel package, so this is kind of where your projected starters come in. Your edges are obviously Will Anderson and Neil Hunter. The interior is a rotation between Sheldon Rankins, Tommy Togiai, and Caden McDonald to start out. I believe Naquan Jones could be added in there, and more. Linebackers, Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o, obviously. The nickel or the star, whatever you want to call it, is going to be Jalen Petrie with Kamari Ramsey behind him. The outside corners are Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter, and then your safeties are Kalen Bullock and Reed Blankenship. The system is now entering year 4 under DeMeco Ryans, who brought this system to the Texans, and the communication seems to get better every single year, and the coaching staff believes this unit can just be as good or not better in 2026. Moving on to the offensive side of the ball, I think it's safe to say that Nick Caley's offense is still evolving in year 2. In 2025, the Texans were extremely heavy in 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers, and they used that on roughly 66 to 70% of snaps. 12 personnel was used less than 8% of the time. When they wanted to get heavier, often they went to jumbo, which is 6 offensive linemen, rather than true 12 personnel because of tight end limitations. Caley has stated he wants better run-pass balance, like they showed in late 2025, and a wider array of personnel groupings. So expect more 12 personnel and multiple tight end sets this year with the additions of Foster Moreau and Marlon Klein. The run game is the biggest priority. Caley prefers physical gap and duo concepts that create vertical push between the tackles rather than pure outside zone, which is what Bobby Slowick liked. Dave Montgomery was acquired specifically to be that physical runner, and Woody Marks will handle the change of pace and receiving work. The goal is to stay on schedule, open play action, and protect CJ Stroud with better structural integrity up front. Protection and multiple blocking surfaces are major talking points. Caley has spoken about wanting different surfaces to attack and the ability to get bigger on edges when needed. So here's the current projected starting lineup headed into training camp on the offensive side of the ball. You got CJ Stroud at quarterback, Dave Montgomery as your lead back with Woody Marks right behind him. Then you got Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, and Jalen Knoll as that slot. Tight end is Dalton Schultz with, in my opinion, Marlon Klein behind him. It's going to be a camp battle between him and Foster Moreau to win that tight end 2 spot, in my opinion. Then you got Ariante Ursery, White Teller. Keelan Rutledge is who I'm putting at center for now, but don't be surprised if it's Jake Andrews to start the season. Ed Ingram at right guard, and then Braden Smith at right tackle. If you want the refresh on the defensive side of the ball, it's Williamson and Daniil Hunter at left and right edge, and then you got Tommy Togiai and Sheldon Rankins as the 2 D tackles for right now. I think Caden McDonald is going to eventually become one of those starting D tackles, but maybe not to start out right away. Then you got Azeez and Henry To'oTo'o as those 2 linebackers. Azeez being your Mike, Henry kind of being your Will or your Sam, whatever you want to call it, and then Jalen Petrie at your nickel. Stingley and Lassiter as your 2 corners, and then Bullock and Blankenship as your 2 safeties. The depth is solid in the secondary and on the interior of the defensive line, but it's kind of thin at edge and somewhat at linebacker as well if injuries do hit. The offensive line is still the biggest question mark on this team despite the offseason additions. So let's talk about the schedule that the Texans do have. The 2026 schedule opens with 2 difficult home games, Buffalo in week 1 and Cincinnati in week 2. Both, you could say, are high-powered offenses that will test the secondary and the pass rush early. The Texans' strength of schedule ranks around 26th in the NFL based on 2025 opponent winning percentages at .474, which is a more favorable draw than the first-place schedules that they have faced in the recent years. They still have challenging stretch games, including a road matchup at the Steelers in Week 13 and other primetime contests like the Eagles on Christmas Eve, I believe. They will play 6 games against 2025 playoff teams and face several strong quarterbacks. The early slate is tough, but the overall schedule is more manageable than previous seasons if the offense improves. So let's talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, and the biggest storylines for this team this upcoming season. The strengths is that the scheme has finally found some stability on both the offense and defensive side of the ball with returning coordinators, an elite defense that ranks at the top without needing high blitz rates, a lockdown secondary, and a versatile nickel who's one of the best in the NFL in Jalen Petrie, and then that young foundational core that the Texans do have with Stroud, Anderson, Stingley, Lassiter, Bullock, Knoll, Higgins, and way more, even Ursery Rutledge being added into that mix. And then in the weaknesses, in my opinion, it's the offensive line consistency in both pass and run blocking. We're going to have to see that grow into next season. Same with the run game efficiency and the red zone and third down offense. So I think it's safe to say that the offense is pretty much the weakness of this team. And we're just going to be able to see if we can build head into next year. And that ties me into my biggest storylines. And one of them is, can the offensive line and Dave Montgomery create a functional and physical run game? The second one is, will CJ Stroud take another step with better balance and protection? And 3, maybe the most controversial one. Can the number one defense sustain its level for a full season and into the playoffs? If these get fulfilled and if the offense becomes even just average, then this is easily, an 11 to 13 win team and a legitimate Super Bowl contender. If the offensive line and run game remain problems, they are still a playoff team, but likely exit earlier than the talent on the defense suggests. So yeah, that's the complete 2026 picture. A defense that lives in nickel, which is the 4-2-5 with a wide-9 front, plays heavy cover 3 and almost never blitzes on early downs and wins its speed and communication. They barely use base and almost never use dime. An offense that's pushing for better balance with more multiple personnel with 2 tight ends out there and a physical run game under Nick Caley. A projected lineup with clear strengths on defense and clear questions on the offensive line / the offense in general, and a schedule that starts hard but is overall more favorable than recent years. Given the win percentages, I do think it could still be a tough schedule considering how everyone will develop heading into next year. But the talent is here for the Houston Texans, and the defensive scheme is proven for us. Everything now depends on whether the offense can finally match the standard the defense has set. So, what are you most focused on heading into training camp? The offensive line, the run game, or whether the defense can stay this good? Drop it down in the comment section below. And if this deep dive really helped you, please be sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks again so much for watching. As always, it's Texans Takeover, and I'm out. Peace.